Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited because I think this is the first time not only that I'm doing a podcast with a crispy microphone, but at the same time, this is a crossover between the Anti-Hero podcast and Leading While Green with Pierre Quinn. So this is exciting for me. As you can see, I don't really do podcasts that much because my intro sucks. But Pierre, I'm excited though, man.
Yeah,
I don't care about no intro except for the
Yeah.
intro for you. Just let me know how you feeling, how you doing, and what's going on with you?
Man, I'm excited for this conversation. I'm excited about the Anti-Hero podcast and the Anti-Hero journey and all the stuff that you're doing and just being able to collaborate. I mean, we worked together on projects for almost like 20 years. So this is just kind of another step in that direction.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so for those of you that don't know, Pierre is, he probably wouldn't agree with the term leadership guru. It's fine, but he is a leadership expert. You still doing a doctorate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
So he's en route to being a leadership guru doctor.
So we get this we'll hold it off till we get the doctorate. So
yeah,
working on it.
Hey, listen. So this is cool because I recently wrote an article. Actually, let's give them some context. I was actually in the process of writing an article, and I hit you up because why did I talk to you? I can't remember why. Oh, it was just a check-in, right?
Yeah, we were just checking in.
You called me, you were checking in, and I told you what I was writing about. And it was interesting because it was this idea of the difference between aspirations, goals. And then I said, you know what? I really want to talk about systems as well.
Yeah.
And then using two examples. Why your startup isn't going to start up and keep going, right? And then the other one was why the Miami Heat is most likely going to lose Game 5. And then we went on a tangent. It was a good tangent. It was enriching as to why the systems of the Miami Heat or the system that they're using right now isn't going to work. And one of the reasons is the unsustainability of how they're playing right now. So this is interesting for me because I have no idea how this conversation is going to go. So let's do it this way. Do it this way. All right. So for those of you that want to read the article, my tag at the bottom, BXRTLEY, that's my Medium tag. All right. So that's the first thing. It's going to be the most recent one right now. It's called Here's the Systemic Reason Why Your Goals Aren't Working. And let's talk about that. This is about why most of your goals aren't necessarily not being achieved, but not being achieved in a repeatable way. It's exhausting trying to finish one after the other. Why is that the case? And my supposition is that it's the lack of a system in place. All right. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about how to make your goals achievable in a sustainable or at a sustainable level. So let's break it down, Pierre. Aspirations, I said, are divergent, right?
Yeah.
8 years ago, I went to a Creative Problem Solving Institute conference, and I didn't know the difference between divergent and convergent thinking. So divergent is more brainstorming, right? You think of any possible and every possible thing that you can conceive of. Most corporate people have a hard time doing that. So you hire somebody to come in for one session for like maybe 10, 20, 30, sometimes $100,000 to help you to brainstorm.
Man, can you say those numbers again?
Yes, 10, 20, and sometimes $100,000. Can you imagine? So I was the youngest guy there, and around all of these other people, and the youngest black one. I think I was the only black one there at the time. And this was interesting as I'm just sitting around listening to people talk about serious play, using Legos and using different. And I'm like, y'all get paid to do this full time? Yeah. And one of the reasons is because when you get older, your brain, what is it called? Plasticity?
Yeah, neuroplasticity.
The neuroplasticity that's in your brain starts to shrink or to disintegrate the older that you get, and that's because of not just biology, but I think it's also just the way that we're trained to think. We're always looking for the right answer.
Did you see the Santa Claus movie is with Tim Allen? Now, I'm not a Santa Claus dude, but Tim Allen. Yeah. I can't remember which one it was. Maybe Santa Claus 2, where I think he has to get married or something like that, and he's interested in this high school principal, and they
Okay.
go to the Christmas party,
Mm.
and people don't know he's Santa Claus. But what he does is he brings them all gifts. He magically makes them appear, and this is crazy, man. He brought the gifts from their childhood that they really wanted, and they spent, that section of the movie, all of these adults who work at this high school playing with games from their childhood. So that it just made me think of that when you're talking about playing with Legos.
Yeah, kids have an easier time brainstorming than adults do, because we eventually get forced into this structure that you get rewarded for having the right answer immediately.
Yeah.
And so you're in most of these sessions, I know you've probably been a part of these, where people are trying to give you and feed you the right answer in a leadership session, right? In a consulting a project, whatever it is. And then you're like, come on, be real. Give me some answers that are off the wall. Let's be divergent first. So this is not just a biological, but it's a cultural issue that we have. And really, children are the most creative beings, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're the ones that have, I guess, the most neuroplasticity that's just activated. But then also, they don't care.
It's not that deep.
It's not that deep to them. But it is for us. It is for us as adults. The other thing is that this divergent idea has to then become real, right? You have to choose one or two, maybe three of those ideas, and figure out how do we make that concrete. So that's what's called convergent thinking, and that's where things get very, you do some fact finding. The creative problem solving process is really good at that, helping you to concretize your off the wall ideas, and then when you get from there, so if aspirations is convergent, divergent, then goals are convergent. Goals is how do you want to do the actual aspiration, the dream that you have for yourself. The problem, and I think the gap is, Pierre, that we are trying to have a whole bunch of convergent how-tos.
Yeah.
But they're scattered. It's as if there isn't a system that's in place to help us to make all of these seemingly unrelated goals connected. As a matter of fact, oh man, so let's do this. I'm going to read the definition of what a system is, and then I'm going to give you my spin on what I think a system is for in an achievable goal setting way. So a system is a set of things working together as parts of a mechanism or an interconnected network. Set of things working together, parts of a mechanism or an interconnected network. I twisted it just a little bit to say it's a set of actions or habits working together as parts of a vision or interconnected network of goals. And when we think of a vision is a long-term process. I'm not talking about like I have visions and dreams. No, not that kind of vision. We're talking about a strategic vision where it's a 10 to 15 year. Have you ever been a part of a vision committee, Pierre?
I have. Yeah.
What's that been like? What are the interconnected goals? First of all, everything is interconnected, right? What's that like? What is that?
So one of the challenges, especially when you're on committees like that to do visioning or strategic planning, is getting people to understand the balance and the use of divergent versus convergent thinking, right? That there's something innate about us, and I guess it goes back to the neuroplasticity conversation, where it's sometimes really hard in the beginning of these conversations to get people just to imagine if there were no limitations, if there were no boundaries, if there were no guidelines, what could we do? What's possible for our organization? Because we jump so fast into this is what we should do, or this is the way it has to be done. Right? Yeah. And that doesn't allow us to question whether or not if we have the right system for the goals that if we have the right system for the vision that we're casting here. We're trying to make everything, we're trying to draw the box first and then put the create the vision from inside of the parameters when actually we got to start the other way. So a lot of the visioneering and strategic planning teams that I've been on have struggled because of that fact.
Wow. So it looks like we have two different extremes, right? That people are maybe jobs to be done oriented.
Yeah.
Right. And then you got those who are pie in the sky. We want to be the greatest institution.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, how are you going to get there? So there's this it's called, I think, the Cascade Strategy. I think that's what it's called. It has 5 components of how a strategy works. Obviously, I believe vision is at the top, but underneath the vision, you have your values. Under your values, you have your organizational goals. Under your organizational goals, you have your very particular tasks. I think I'm missing something in the middle there. Focus, I think. So listen, it's like 5 components.
Yeah.
And it looks like a house. The way that it's set up, the tasks are like the pillars of the house. Then it's, stacked on top of the actual goals, the overarching goals. And then on top of the goals is the actual foci for each one. Yeah. And you need only 3 to 4 focuses, right? And then on top of that is what is the value system? And then the actual vision that encroaches the whole thing. So when we think, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, as it relates to organizational structure, and I know you user experience and user design, and that's one of the circles in which you play in. You play in a lot of circles, but have you had conversations with, or how do you navigate people? Because it's sometimes when I'm coaching teams or when I'm doing consulting for organizations, we want to hire top talent. And there's some sports analogies we can make to this as well.
Yeah.
We want to hire top talent. We want to be mentored by who we consider greats and gurus. But we mess up sometimes because we don't do a values check. So as you explained it, vision and then values come second. We go down 3 or 4 and look at a person's proficiency. Look at, can they do the task? Yeah. That's one thing. But how do their values align with our organizational values and then the overall vision of the organization? And man, it's tough sometimes in teams. And, and coming from a faith-based background and church life as well. And we try to make this huge dichotomy between a faith-based and professional context. Man, people are people, and big, heavy organizations and small churches
almost
wrestling with the same thing.
Circle, yeah.
So we got a lot of people in positions who are proficient, who are leading organizations or sectors of organizations, but that person's value system doesn't align with the value system that the organization claims to espouse. So there's always a friction piece.
There is, Simon Sinek, I believe, is the one that, I don't know if it's in his What's Your Why talk. That's like, I think the 2nd or 3rd most popular TED talk in history right now. But he does talk about this difference or this parallel between performance and trust. I think that's I think that's the X and Y axis that he uses, and how there are people who are high performers, but you don't really trust them. As a matter of fact, they're considered jerks.
Yeah.
But you have individuals who may not be high performers, but they're reliable. And I guess it's not reliable from a performance standpoint, but from a character standpoint, you trust them, And so he says that we've made our culture top heavy, to your point, that we have these high performers, but man, ain't nobody trustworthy out here, man.
A whole lot of type A's, man.
Yeah. ABC type people, always be closing. That's all that matters, by any means necessary. So speaking of closing, this game, this championship is about to close out. Listen, I'm from Miami.
You're from Miami. How are you? You don't have faith in your team.
So speaking of narratives, I just put that in there just so that we can talk about narratives. I am drawn to, so I'm not a basketball aficionado. I don't know much about basketball or sports, but what I do like is a good story. LeBron James has a very great narrative.
His overall
Great
narrative
narrative.
is amazing.
The Heat does too, but I'm not really connected to the new Heat team as I might have been in the past. I haven't really kept up with sports, right? But I've kept up with LeBron James' story, not actively, but just inadvertently. He's in the news, XYZ. So he has at least right now, he has a stronger narrative, I believe, than the Heat does. He really does. Does he have more to lose? Yeah. The Heat has a very young team. They've got some time, but he has to. Well, he doesn't have to, but there's a lot on the line for him to win an actual championship
in LA.
His narrative of going to every franchise and winning, that's a very strong story. And I was rooting for LeBron. Call me a flip-flopper if you want in the very beginning, like, yo, man, this would be awesome for him. It's his 10th, time in the yeah, I know all of that, right? Mind you, I'm not a LeBron fan. I'm a fan of the story, right?
That's a great way to put it.
Listen, I am
as a fan of the story.
So that would make me a flip flopper. I don't care. But then the Heat win, and I'm like, this might be an interesting story too. So I started not rooting, but I started getting excited for the Heat as well, because they are now considered, not now, but as I listen to more sports commentators, they're the underdogs.
Of course, we love underdog stories.
Yeah. The fifth seed, and stuff. These are stats and stuff that I'm saying that I've only heard other people like Shannon Sharp, Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, all these guys that we probably listen to, or maybe don't, but talk about these things. So I don't want to regurgitate the stuff that they're saying, but at the same time, it's true. They're the underdogs, and so when it seemed as if there wasn't a chance for them to win, and they did. And then I listened to the post interviews. I don't know about you, but I like listening to the post interviews. It's probably not a good indicator of like what's actually going on with the team, but I think it's a small window into what they're thinking, how these players are thinking, especially when they're good at articulating what's going on. Not a lot of players are good at doing that, right? Yeah. They have some canned speeches, or they just don't think about the game critically, like certain people like LeBron and some others might do. Butler said, I just want to win. I just want to win. Okay, cool. That's great. So let's talk about how they're doing that, Pierre. Let's talk about this idea of they were able to win in game 4, but man, did it take a lot.
Yeah.
40 points, triple double. And then he said, he would have to do something just like that again. The Heat would have to play a perfect game in order for them to even have a chance. And even if it's a perfect game, they most likely won't win anyway. What makes it so exhausting? We're talking about goals versus systems here. Why is the goal of just wanting to win not enough versus creating a system around a team that allows them to consistently not just make points, but to win games?
Man, we were talking about this earlier. In organizations, we appear to be very top heavy in terms of personality, in terms of focus, even of hiring. There's a part of me that sees Jimmy Butler, and I could be off in this regard, as if we look at it on the disc spectrum, as a high D, dominance, grab the bull by the horns, not afraid of anything. This is like, I'm going to stare you down. I'm going to make it happen. And the Heat are surviving off of that. They're thriving off of Jimmy Butler's personality and disposition. Yeah. Now is his gameplay when we come down to the finals. But when you look at the playoffs, it was that fight, and sometimes in sports vernacular, we call it that dog. That hunt. Yeah. That's causing them to really outperform their experience. When you look at something LeBron, and this is indicative of how many of our organizations run, LeBron is not a high D on a disc, not high dominance. He's not even high I in terms of social interaction.
Really?
No.
I would have thought he was,
No, he's not high I. I can look at him and tell. What LeBron is high S. This is stabilizing. And here's the thing about stabilizing. High stabilizing appears to be high interactive, but only with their people. Okay. With their team, with their family, with the people they're comfortable with and build trust. Okay. They're affable and gregarious and social. But if you take them out of that situation and put them in a spot where they don't know anybody, or it's new, then you see what they really are in terms of interaction. So LeBron on the court with his teammates, LeBron in the locker room with his teammates versus LeBron in a post-game interview. You don't get that same gregarious, sociable context out of him. And I'm talking about even the context of winning. It's all a question about helping my team, his thing, helping my teammates, 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 putting them out. If I have to score more to help the team, if I have to score less to help the team, that's his frame of reference.
Okay.
And what makes it tough is that you need in every organization, you need a mix. You need somebody in the organization who is going to be the alpha, but the alpha doesn't always have to be the captain.
Is the alpha typically a D personality?
Yeah.
Okay. So if he's not the alpha, who is the alpha on the Lakers team?
Very good question. I would suggest that the alpha on the Lakers is Rajon Rondo.
Huh. So what does this mean in terms of how the alpha is not the dominant, at least on the Lakers, is not the dominant playmaker? So what I propose is that when it comes to a sustainable winning team, you need to make plays.
You need to make
right?
plays.
Like you just have to be able to have the people on the court who are able to do that and to improvise when even what the coach has suggested is not going to work. And I think we talked about that. When that play collapses, they have to in microseconds be able to quickly read what's going on. And then, well, let's do the reverse. You also need people who knows how to read what is shifted and what has changed. Hence Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
And you talked about that too, where Anthony Davis isn't the playmaker as much as the play reader. He knows how to respond to what LeBron is doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if the dominant, the high D is not that person? What makes their system work then? Because I would assume that the dominant person is the playmaker, but not really. So if the dominant alpha is more so in the background, because, and they call him playoff Rondo, which they don't like at all. He doesn't like it, Lisa. What's this dynamic? Why do they keep winning based on how the system they have?
And that's the beautiful thing about organizational management and really getting the most out of an organization, because there are times when you have someone in the C-suite, someone in the senior director role, and they are not an alpha. They are not the high dominant personality. Mm-hmm. They are more team oriented and more supporting role, or they're highly analytical.
Okay.
But having someone on the team helps you leverage that. That's the thing that we don't get into a lot.
Okay.
When we talk about building a team, I need to be able to leverage the dominance of somebody else. A great example of this, while we're on the sports analogy, and we'll get back to Jimmy Butler, but it's the Golden State Warriors.
Okay.
Their best player is not an alpha.
Who is
Steph Curry is not an alpha.
Okay, so he's considered their best player. Okay.
He's
what?
Very social.
You're right.
Not an alpha.
You're right. On and off the court.
Their best
his
shooter
wife has said it too. So yes, I
their best shooter, Klay Thompson, is probably high analytical.
Okay.
The way his game, the precision of his game.
Yeah.
Steph's game is flair. That's high eye interaction.
Gotcha.
Klay Thompson's game is precision. That's high C analytical. The dog, the alpha on the team is Draymond Green.
Okay.
So he's the engine. He's not the best player. Draymond's not a very good basketball player. But he knows he knows his limitations. Yeah. And the other people are able to leverage that. So they build a system around him. They don't even call plays for him. Because they know in the system he's going to hustle after he'll get the hustle plays. Right. He'll get the scraps. He'll get a steal here or a block that'll get him energized and into the game. So, and a person like that adjusts well to what's going on. So let's take Jimmy Butler and let's take some of our organizations. Okay. Jimmy Butler is man, he's a dominant force, and everybody else on that young team, it's like having a big brother. If you got a big brother, you can talk a whole lot of junk because you got a big brother.
Yeah.
Everybody's riding off of him
Mhm.
and his dominance as it relates to personality.
Okay.
Well, highly dominant forces are in many cases system averse
Really?
because
Okay.
they don't like to be told what to do. They like to tell other people what to do. So if you can get a dominant force to tell people what to do in the confines of the system, it works.
Okay.
Because the way the system works, and it allows them to be fully alpha,
Right.
but within the construct.
Okay.
So here it can't just be willing us to win. Okay, you willed us to win one game, Jimmy
One
Butler.
game. Right.
That'll get you one. That might get you two. That doesn't get you four. You have to now recognize what are the adjustments that need to be made in the moment, and how do you win if you can't be the dominant alpha picture.
Yeah.
Lakers are winning partially for a lot of reasons. One, they have the culture is win in LA.
Okay.
So that's
the culture is for every
win. Team? Man, so it's called sports entertainment for a reason. And we don't have time to get into the nuances of this. But the performance of a team doesn't necessarily impact the revenue that the ownership makes.
Okay.
So if we win, if we lose, I still get revenue sharing. I still get TV deals. I see this
more connected, at least for me, in boxing, especially in a lot of movies where it's like, we set it up, whether you win or lose, you're still going to get the bag.
Listen, and ownership in sports
like that.
Ownership in sports is that way. The culture in LA is a culture of winning. LeBron is the type of player. Look at all of his championship runs.
Yeah.
LeBron has to play with someone who is an alpha or who has alpha tendencies.
Okay.
Kyrie is not an alpha, but he has alpha tendencies.
Okay.
He will take over a game.
Right. Okay.
Dwayne Wade took over the games in Miami. I mean, you from Miami,
and now expecting Jimmy Butler to be or have the Dwayne Wade mentality. When right now, I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't consider Butler a high D. I mean, as you say it, and you probably you'll know more than I would because you've seen him in different contexts from different teams, right? So, but I don't know. This last game just really felt like, more of an S. Seemed like more of an S person.
What was it? What did he do in this last game?
Well, he didn't take as many shots. It was almost as if the amount of opportunities that he did have, he would dish the ball out to someone else versus just taking like the actual opportunity to shoot the ball. And he wouldn't. And it was almost as if it was on purpose to prove that our team doesn't need a one or the one, and I'm not that guy. I think a high D would be like, I'm going to be that guy today. I'm going to be that guy tomorrow because winning
not necessarily
want to do. Wow.
Not necessarily because you said on purpose, right? It seemed like he was doing it on purpose. And we don't know. We're not sports commentators.
Yeah.
But if it is on purpose, it's still allowing him to control the narrative.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so speaking of controlling the narrative, a lot of us have a hard time controlling our own just personal resolutions, right?
Yeah,
because as we pivot from basketball to, and we don't have much time, but business and just losing weight to having a healthier lifestyle to a different, I don't know, job.
Yeah.
Why do those fall flat? From a systematic standpoint, so we're talking about this culture of winning that the Lakers had. What would we need to do in order to have our goals kind of align with each other so it doesn't feel so exhausting? Some of us feel so exhausted come February.
Yeah.
You just started.
I think it goes back to what you were saying before.
Mm.
When we look at even resolutions or things that happen every single month, when we do a personal audit and try to figure out what we're going to do for this month or this quarter,
I like that personal audit piece right there. Yeah.
we spend so much time in aspiration. This is what happens. We spend hours and hours and hours in the aspirational element of what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But we often fail to put a strategy and system behind that aspirational element. So my plan is to, that's the classic one, lose weight, right? I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to will myself to not eating Cheetos or not having 2 or 3 milkshakes or 1 cookie. I aspire to do that.
Yeah.
Good. I have aspired, done. We're going to be the top company, or we're going to, our sales are going to go up 15% this quarter, and we're going to have all of our salespeople in a room, and we're going to chant that thing every Monday morning because that's what we aspire to be.
Yeah.
Well, from creative design, it tells you if you have aspiration, but you don't have the strategy, the accountability, and the framework to make that happen, the best that you could hope for is future moments of aspiration, because that's about as far as you're gonna get. Without accountability, without structure, behind the aspiration, it never gets anywhere.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. So one of the things that I realized that wasn't sustainable for me was, as I was building a business, I realized that I had goals, but they weren't, and systems built around the goals, but it's like I had a system for every goal versus having more of an overarching system and the goals kind of aligning. Now, I think unless it's so technical that you need to have a separate system for each, then that's necessary. But I think where it collapsed for me was that, I had this goal where, okay, I'm going to build this product and I need to reach X amount of people and to create this awareness and to validate whether or not this product is, something that is worth doing. And then after that, improve it. That was the goal. I reached X amount of people, actually more, maybe 2 to 3 times more than I had anticipated, right? And we're talking about like 1,500, right? So that's big. You look at other, models, they're just like, at least just reach 100 and you can get enough validation. Well, for some reason, I thought I needed more. The amount of people after a certain threshold really doesn't matter anymore if it's still just a pre-startup idea. So I'm thinking I got a lot of feedback. After a while, it starts to all be the same. And then I reach out, I improve, but the motivation wasn't there anymore. As a matter of fact, I started to take the advice of people, other founders now, because I'm now in this community, other founders who are saying, what you're doing, I don't know if people are going to take on to this because there are other models that are out there that are free. Why would anybody want to do or to purchase or to buy into what you're, what you're creating and selling at a premium? It doesn't make sense. And that kind of got in my head a little bit. But that's not I used to think that was the reason why I kind of deterred, but it's because I didn't have the system that said, do the repeatable action over and over and over. So for instance, and this is a great example, I think James Clear uses this example where instead of thinking about getting the job done, whatever it is, your goal as a startup is to build something, test something, learn from it, retest, and ship it. Like that's what it is. Build, ship, learn, test, ship. I'm messing up the whole loop, the whole loop here. But the whole point is, it's not about the receptiveness as much as it is the building and the shipping part of the system. That's important. Of course, you got to think about the receptivity, but it's more so about what are you creating, putting out, and then improving so that you can eventually get something that people want.
You said that part of the system. And I think that underscores so many of us, not just in entrepreneurship, but we're leading maybe established organizations. We have this particular goal that we have, and we refuse to take the time to attach that goal or to allow that goal to naturally derive from a vision and a strategy. It's, man, I saw this awesome webinar on Facebook ads. I'm about to kill it with Facebook ads. Or I saw this awesome webinar about how to create a webinar or a seminar, and I'm going to do it. And the excitement of the newness. And then because I've done this. I created a virtual summit, attracted a few hundred people, got them into my email list, and was really excited about the content. But that was not attached to any overall strategy, and then it wasn't put into a system. So it's just like a thing.
You mentioned, I like how you separated strategy versus system, because I think we tend to create sophisticated strategies that feel as if they're a part of a system and they're not. I want to give some examples of how your goals can be interconnected. I think if we start looking at our lives as domains, and each part of these domains are interconnected, then I think we'll have goals that are less unrelated and more holistic. And I think that that's the key for me, is even if you have an entrepreneurial life versus your personal life, there are still overlaps, but we try to make them so, and maybe it's a Western thing. We talk about this in intercultural communication before we study this, Pierre, where the Eastern hemisphere or the Eastern cultures are more collective in everything, family, work, everything. They even have siestas, man. Like there's just
we should be sleeping right now.
And we compartmentalize every part of our lives in the Western civilization, in the Western world. So here's some domains. And I think that if we can think about it this way, perhaps some of your goals may be a little bit more in sync with each other as you start thinking about what you want to do for 2021 or what you need to be doing. So you have spiritual, intellectual, emotional, physical, marital, parental, social, vocational, which is your primary occupation, avocational, which could be a hobby or a minor occupation, and financial. One of the best ways to do this, Pierre, I realized, is that if you have a planner, don't just have a planner and just start jotting down things to be done. Use a planner. I know that you have one. Yep. Shameless plug. Let's go ahead and do that. We are on no other platform but our own, so you can do that. So what is your planner called?
So we're still in the beta for our planner system, the Pillar Planner system. So I can't release too much information about it, but it's essentially that the system is built out on three pillars. Really, you have your personal goals and aspirations, you have your professional goals and aspirations, and then you have what we call passions, things that give you life and meaning and allow you to express creativity and really who you are. That's different from your family and different from your direct professional responsibilities. And it's all about the planners. That planner system that we're still working on is about really the convergence of those three, and getting the best out of life as you experience that convergence.
That's good. That's good. Because so for those of you that are like, well, I need something like that now, what I use is Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner.
Man, you got an affiliate link for that?
Listen, man, I probably need to.
You probably need to.
Just dropping resources. So here's the thing with the Full Focus Planner. It's kind of systematic in a way. That's where I actually got those domains from, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I might need an affiliate link for myself one day, create my own planner that's only dealing with how is it all interconnected. Okay, so what do I mean? The reason why the last quarter has at least felt not as successful as it has been is because I have skipped out. I have not thoroughly filled out some of these parts in the planner. If you don't fill out particular parts, you are failing at the system. Here's the part in the planner, Pierre. I'm pretty sure. I think with the beta one that I had from you earlier this year, I think it had this as well. It's called the after action review. After you've done what you've done for the week, you got to look at it. You got to review it. Here are the three questions. How far did you get? What worked and what didn't? And the last one is what will you keep, improve, start, or stop doing? So I did the how far will you get? I did that. You know, I can do the, 75% done. But what I stopped really thoroughly thinking about and doing is what worked and what didn't. That's number 2. And then number 3 is what will you keep? What will you improve, start, or stop doing? And the reason why I stopped filling these out is because it takes a level of critical thinking that makes me realize that I probably don't do it for one of 3 reasons. I don't have any repeatable actions to track, measure, and assess. If you don't really have a real system, then you start to miss out on some of these pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, and I think this is where I fall in, I stopped doing my routine thinking that I can just wing it.
You're smart enough. You've had enough experiences.
I'm not really going
You could just wing it.
Right. Or number 3, I don't think that I need to reflect that deeply about it. Yeah. And when you start thinking about how a system is designed, because it's repeatable, if you're not intentional, then you start to lose out on what makes the system work. That sounds so circuitous, but I believe this, Pierre. If you do a goal long enough, if it's a long-term goal, we can almost say, if it's impacting other areas of your life, that it's probably a system that you have. I think you can turn goals into systems.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a great example. And this is where I kind of, and I know we got to run here. Here's the thing. When I'm reading about people designing systems, it's like they're designing it so that you can have a low expectation, so that if the thing doesn't work out, you have a cushion for the failure. Great example is this. Don't think about writing a book. Think about blogging 500 words daily or 3 times a week. And then one day, opportunities open up that wouldn't have opened up if you only just focused on the book. My problem with that is you shouldn't do one or the other. The system is the blogging every day because it puts you in the repeatable process. It's sustainable. It's low impact, right? It increases your odds. The book is just one shot. Now you have a higher rate of finishing or of attaining the goal. Books are very elusive. We know this.
They are.
So maybe that's a bad example. But the point is this: you say you write the book, but then you may not have as many opportunities. You may not get that publisher, but if you're writing a blog consistently, there are other things that might happen. Scott Adams, the I think he's the creator of Dilbert, actually talked about that's how he got his Wall Street Journal opportunity, by just blogging. I think it was just blogging every day, and then from there, he then got a book opportunity. I think you need both. Do the book and then also create the system of writing, because you should not have a low expectation for certain things.
Man, one of the things that I would suggest is what makes it difficult is that we make the book, and it's okay to have book writing as a goal.
Right.
I got a couple of books, but if that book is not properly centered in the overall, like, how does this book project fit into the system?
Yes.
Like, okay, I'm writing the book so that this could happen, so that this could happen, so that this could happen, so that this could happen. And here is the goal at every stage. Right. So the goal for this one, maybe I'm saying I want to, I want to work with 100, I want to work with 25 Fortune 500 companies. All right. So I'm going to create an ecosystem around being able to work with 25 Fortune 500 companies. Right. Writing a book and getting on a notable list is only one part of that entire framework.
Yes.
A lot of us, and I know this from personal experience, you write a book and it's not connected to anything.
And you think that is going to be the silver bullet that's going to answer all of your problems.
It can't if it's not connected to anything.
So can we talk about this idea? Well, I guess we can't talk about much, right? But if we can we so let's hone in. Let's tie this in. How do we make our goals interconnected? And I think that's why people still confuse goals with systems. A system is a set of goals that are interconnected with each other that improves your overall well-being. I just made that up, but it sounds so seamless that it works. I think it's just because of the conversation that we've had just now. It's just so clear to me. Wow. I'm going to write that down. Okay. Coming back down to earth, right?
New medium post.
Right. Interconnection. It's a set of goals versus one goal. If you're a chef, you know what I really like? I like the movie Julie and Julia. I love those kind of movies.
You've been on your movie tip lately.
Listen, man, I haven't seen that movie for years, but I watch a lot of movies. I think that's why I love storytelling and all of that, because you can start pulling from so many different random movies. Like, I was going to go on a tangent here, but Triple Frontier that's on Netflix, and I think it's called The Five Bloods from Spike Lee, which is also on Netflix. They're both interconnected. Both have 5 people. Both are searching for something. Oh, it's so cool. Anyway.
You got to do a whole episode on that.
Oh my goodness. So anyway, so reeling it back in, if you just have one, and here's the thing, nothing's wrong with just having one particular goal, but I think that if you just live from goal to goal, it's a survival mindset.
Oh, rewind the tape. Say that again, because a lot of us struggle with that.
Yeah, if you just have one goal at a time, or you're setting up one goal at a time, it's most likely a reaction. You're not being proactive. You're being reactive to what's happening in your life. I need to pay bills. Let me get a job. Cool. Go ahead and do that. But how does that connect with the overarching vision that is supported by those particular jobs to be done? But we don't think like that. We think, oh, wow, hold on. The water main broke in my building. I need to find XYZ. Now, nothing is wrong when you have a particular goal that needs to that happens, and you have to get it done immediately. But that can't be your system. That's more chaos, where you're waiting for the next thing to happen to you or in your life, and then you build a goal around that. You're not really taking control of your life, and you're living as a survivor. So living from goal to goal is a survival mindset. Creating a system where you have particular goals that are just, I think one example is having one circle that has an arrow that's, pointing at the bullseye, versus a system, which is that same circle, but it's got arrows that are kind of like in a flowing motion. Mm-hmm. That's what a system is. The system is even taking those particular goals, putting them in a system, and saying, after I fix the water main, how does this connect with the rest of why the building is even there to begin with? Why am I even there? What is going to benefit us fixing this thing, spending the money to do this, if we're going to be here for another 5 years? What is the system that we need to build so that the building helps us to sustain our business, so that if the water main does break again, it's not that big a deal. We can fix it. As a matter of fact, we'll be able to afford somebody to come in versus us having to scrounge around and, duct tape it together. I think that's what a system is. It's low impact steps, repeatable steps that allow you to win. There's no other way to put it, Pierre. You win like the Lakers, even though I'm a Heats fan, but that's a whole nother story. Okay, three simple steps for how to build a system. The first one is you need a routine. You need a routine. All right. That's I think it's the quintessential part of any system. You need to build a routine. You get up, you go to sleep. What's in between there? Some of us are even more intentional. Some planners have it. You have a morning routine, then you have a work startup ritual. Then you have your evening routine, and then or your work shutdown ritual, and then your evening routine. Your morning routine has nothing to do with checking emails and all of that. This is about your well-being. Yep. Getting your day started. The work startup can be checking emails, watching news, all of that stuff. Shut down means you shut down. Reflect may come in that, but shut it down. How do you do that? Do you get up, get a cup of tea? Do you play a certain song that's like, yo, this is it? Like, you got to figure that out. And then the evening routine is, once again, your holistic self. How do you end the day? Not your work. That should already be done. How do you end your day? The second thing that you need is timestamps. You need time frames for all of these things. If you don't have time constraints, then it's going to be very difficult to keep it repeatable. Everything else in nature is repeatable. The sun rises and sets. Repeatable. Yeah. Right. And then the last one is people. Who can you hold yourself accountable to, or who do you need to talk with? And here's the thing. These things are interchangeable. You don't need to have the same time. You don't need to have the same person. You don't need to have the same routine. All of these things can be updated. You can swap out people too, guys. But the problem is, if you don't have these pieces, you miss some things. You miss time management skills. You miss the ability to communicate. You miss your opportunity to create discipline. and commitments. And, so it's once now you have a simple system, because now it's covering all of these things as a human being that you should have, so that when a larger opportunity comes, you know how to manage your time, you know how to connect with people, you know how to establish and, set an attainable goal for yourself, and you can get the job done. Does that make sense?
It does. I would also add to that a continual audit. There's something at night, usually, somewhere between 1 and 3 a.m., depending on what it is, where your website or your if you watch cable or internet provider, whatever, they do something called system maintenance.
Yeah.
They're checking to see if what we're doing actually gets us the outcome that we're looking for. And if it doesn't, what do we need to change in order for this system to work? What are the habits that we need to practice that gets us to a particular goal, which fits into the system, which gives us the outcome that we're looking for? So that system maintenance and evaluation are so important.
Build a system and then create space in the system to check the system. It's like getting out of your own head.
Yeah.
And that critical thinking piece is very, very important, because if you can't get out of the system, like the Matrix, then you can't really see what's going on to fix it. And you get to a point where you can, like Neo, because Neo broke the system. Like he worked the system, where then he asked Morpheus, so you mean I can dodge bullets? And then Morpheus says, I'm trying to tell you that there's going to come a time when you won't have to.
You won't have to.
And that's where you want to be. You want to get to that point where your system is so fluid, where you know how to adapt and shift and change. And then at some point, you LeBronize yourself.
That was terrible. That was terrible.
I'm gonna kill that analogy. We can't edit this, but you guys get the point. Your goals will only be as strong as the system that you build around them. All right, Pierre, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this ad hoc crossover.
That was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. All right, guys. So I think that clearly I'm stumbling here because I really don't have a closing. Man. Okay, Pierre, quick shameless plug. What do you want to talk about? And that'll just give me some time to figure out how on earth I'm going to actually close this thing out, and then be gone.
Yeah, just in relationship to our conversation today and the whole anti-hero paradigm framework that you're building out, my emphasis is on helping leaders, teaching them really how to courageously begin the journey to personal and professional transformation. That is my work. I do that through consulting, through coaching. I had some incredible coaching clients over the past several months, been able to speak virtually and talk to teams about the intersection between the head and heart of leadership. And what many organizations are discovering is that the output that they are getting, the system that they have, is perfectly designed for that. We try to fix people. We want to make people better. We want to change things around, but we don't always take some time to reflect on what's the framework that we've built to get this particular outcome. So I help organizations have conversations about the head and the heart of leadership, so that emerging leaders can do what they need to do to survive. And you can hit me up, pierrequinn.com, pierrequinn.com, or on Instagram at Pierre Quinn.
Awesome. And for me, guys, as an anti-hero, I just simply want to say that no one's perfect. It's not too late to make changes, even to your goals, especially for the new year. I know we're in the last quarter, so we've got 3 months left. Don't think about 2021 as much as thinking about the next day. All right. And so we're out. This was great, but we got to go. See y'all next time.